Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for another segment of the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports. He's Jason, I'm Chucky, and not sure where to start, Jay. I mean, there's a lot that's really gone on since the last time we got together, but let's start with the NBA Finals. I mean, really a dominant performance by the Celtics. They were the prohibitive favorites almost the entire year. You look at how dominant they were in the Eastern Conference, but I think there was a lot of doubters. Like, could they get to the top of the mountain and conquer this? Because they hadn't before. They were the favorites the last couple of years, looked so dominant, but didn't get the job done. Then you had the Mavs and everything, as we kind of talked about, and you highlighted off air that every time you turned on any sports channel or were reading anything about sports, it was Luka, Luka, Luka. And then Kyrie going back to Boston, and everyone was infatuated with that backcourt of the Mavs. And I think going into the postseason, if you said, hey, it's going to be Mavs, Celtics, what's the series price? We were talking Celtics minus 350, $4 or higher. They opened up minus 210, yet all the action was on the Mavs. And that was that infatuation, again, with their backcourt, how good they played in the Western Conference. But I think more doubters, not only us and the guests, but even in the media, could the Celtics get it done? But really a dominant performance from start to finish.
Yeah, and leading up to the finals, all you heard was the Luka Doncic chatter, how he was now the best player in the world. And you know, if he was going to be able to complete the Mavs, you know, he was the new star of the NBA, the new face of the NBA. And you alluded to going back to Boston making the run through the Eastern Conference. While dominant, they still had a couple games where they let the Heat knock them off in the game. They let the Cavs knock them off in the game. The Pacers were really competitive throughout the Eastern Conference Finals. And, you know, with all that being said, the Sixers and the Bucks, who were really expected to be the two teams that were, you know, competitive in the Eastern Conference, weren't healthy.
Right, they were banged up, right, yeah.
Not being there. And so the Celtics had an easier road and maybe didn't exert their dominance. They let a couple games slip away, and that's what made the public think that the Mavericks were live and had a chance. And obviously, you know, in that Western Conference, we saw the Nuggets, who were the favorites in the Western Conference, get knocked off, and the T-Wolves kind of came out of nowhere. They were the juggernaut. They were going to be the team that was going to head to the finals, and then Dallas kind of really walked through them, really owned them, and that's where we saw the Kyrie and Luka show really kind of start to begin, and then Boston was able to shut it down real quick. And what an incredible job by the Celtics in the finals. We know Jaylen Brown won the MVP, and obviously Jason Tatum and what he did, but just an all-around group effort from Holiday and White and Horford. I mean, it was really kind of something special to watch the defense these guys played, to watch them spread the ball around, and you talked about it being a dominant performance. And because it was a dominant performance, we expect all these guys to come back, and maybe they get a healthy Porzingis to add to that mix. They're a 3-1 favorite to win next year's championship, and that's a pretty low price on a team.
Really low.
That's a repeat type price. Followed by the Nuggets at kind of 5.5 to 1. The Timberwolves make a big jump to 750 to 1. Mavs, who we just saw, are about 12 to 1. But a load of teams in the mix. That's a pretty good numbers because you have the Celtics such a high favorite to win things.
What really stood out to me and for our business model is that it was so uncharacteristic and unusual that we needed the favorite in every game. I mean, it was just, especially the first two games in Boston, there was just an onslaught of Mavs money. Not only on the point spread, but on the money line to actually win those games. Maybe it was just the value. Again, a lot of non-believers in the Mavs, but every game outcome was a good outcome for us too, which is really uncharacteristic that we're rooting for the favorites.
Yeah, it was crazy. You talked about them betting Dallas in games 1 and 2 on the road, and then they of course bet Dallas in game 3 to have that first win at home, which Boston steals, and then in game 4 the public switches to the Celtics, and they bet the Celtics heavy in game 4, and that's the game that Mavericks are able to steal. The courtesy, the gentleman's sweep, I guess we talk about, that they gave the Mavs that game
to win it at home on their home court.
It was strange. We talked about that. You know, the Celtics won those first 3 games, and then the Mavericks won game 4 in a big blowout. And the Mavericks actually had more points scored in the series than the Celtics through 4 games, despite being down 3-1 after the big blowout. So looking forward to the offseason. what's going to happen with some of these guys that are out there, some of the free agent moves. Obviously, we saw Pablo Siakam already signed
with the Pacers.
by the Pacers.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens throughout the year there.
I really think, us being Chicago guys and really the Bulls might be the team that kind of dictates where star power goes with DeRozan and Levine, what ultimately happens with those guys and where they go.
I actually had a note that the Celtics needed to send a thank you card to the Sixers and the Lakers for this year's NBA championship. In 2016, the year Jaylen Brown was drafted, the Boston Celtics had the third pick in the NBA draft. 76ers had the first pick. They took Ben Simmons out of LSU. The Lakers had the second.
Who?
Ben Simmons.
Again, who?
Again, at that
Right.
point in time, you couldn't make that argument.
I know, right.
Ben Simmons should have been the number one pick.
Right.
Ben Simmons, number one out of LSU. Lakers took Brandon Ingram out of Duke at that time. Again, awesome player. Didn't have success with the Lakers. Is now on the Pelicans, having a lot of success. Jaylen Brown went 3 to the Celtics after his freshman year at Cal. 2017, we have the same exact order. Sixers draft first, Lakers draft second, Boston drafts third. Sixers take Markelle Fultz out of Washington.
I will say who again.
So the Sixers, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. Lakers, Brandon Ingram. Then they take Lonzo Ball, who we know, again, is not healthy. And then third, Boston takes Jason Tatum out of Duke. So, like I said, Celtics, please send
It's important to draft well, boys.
A quick thank you card to the Sixers and the Lakers for your 2016-2017 draft picks. We'll call them their MVP and the co-MVP.
All right, so NBA's done. We've talked about a little bit of next year. Let's switch over to the ice now, and really intriguing series as well. I mean, you look at Florida, who was really dominant against Edmonton in both games during the regular season. Both games went over. Then they get to Florida, really dominant again at home. Games go under. For me, it's probably one of the bigger contrasts in styles that I can remember. You know that Florida wants to play with Bobrovsky between the pipes, a lot of dump and chase, get the lead, force Edmonton's speed to the outside of the rink. Where Edmonton wants to go straight up with Draisaitl and McDavid, create havoc around the goal, and get the games to go over. Well, Florida's been dominant. They win the first 2 games at home, and we did see a lot of Edmonton play as well in those. And then you go back to Edmonton in a game that's a must-win, and they bet Edmonton like crazy. Florida wins. Then again, they go back to Florida, and Edmonton wins, very similar to what we saw. But now the series stands 3-2, and I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Florida going back to Alberta. I mean, you look at an Edmonton team right now, it has a whole country behind them. There hasn't been a Canadian Stanley Cup champion in 31 years. There's a lot more pressure on Florida now. The last 2 games have gone over. High-scoring games. McDavid, 8 points in the last 2 games. He took the series over against Dallas, even though they got outshot in Game 6, and he's looked phenomenal, him and Draisaitl, in the last 2 games. Wouldn't surprise me to see this series go 7.
Yeah, it was mirroring the NBA Finals.
The betting was mirroring it a lot.
We saw, obviously, both the Celtics and Panthers jump out to the 3-0 leads. Everything was kind of going the same. And they expect Dallas wins Game 4 of the NBA series.
Yep.
Edmonton comes with the big monster 8-1 win in their Game 4. And then everybody flips to betting Florida in Game 5 after what they saw the Celtics do in Game 5.
It was a huge jump.
To close things out. Yeah. So there was big Panther money in Game 5. Obviously, Edmonton pulls the upset in Game 5, and we're headed to Game 6 on Friday night. Connor McDavid, there's no better player in the world over the last couple of years, and now he's finally getting to show it on hockey's biggest stage.
But with that said, though, I mean, go to the NBA, and when Jordan, how many years it took him to finally win that ring and win an NBA championship, to get over the hump, to finally beat the Pistons and get to that point. But to be considered the greatest in your sport, or one of the greatest, you have to win a championship.
Sure.
So, he's done great. He's made this series 3-2. He has a chance to make it 3-3. But a loss here would then put him into his 9th season next year with still no championship.
Well, and as much as he's been the catalyst, and you talk about the 4 points in back-to-back games, the first time that's ever happened in a Stanley Cup final. Only Wayne Gretzky had scored 4 points in a Stanley Cup final. It's Skinner that's got to go win this series for
Absolutely.
him. Stuart Skinner, the goaltender for Edmonton, he's found his form the same way Bobrovsky found his form in kind of games 1 through 3. Listen, I don't think Florida's in a panic mode at all. They're the better team on the ice most of the time. They have to stay off the penalty kill.
Yep.
And we've said it a zillion times. anytime we talk about hockey, special teams plays a monster big deal. And once Edmonton gets rolling and they get confidence in that power play, it makes such a big difference.
Well, Florida's saying that we're not panicking.
I don't think they can.
But I think if Edmonton scores first, they get up to a 2-0 lead in Game 6, I think you have to panic a little bit because anything can happen in a Game 7, and you will have totally flipped the narrative where all the confidence now, all the momentum is with Edmonton.
All the tickets right now, at least as we sit here today, obviously going into Friday for Friday night's game, the tickets are still balanced in this game for Edmonton versus Florida from a betting standpoint, with Edmonton only being $1.20 favorite
because you said it,
at home.
Florida's the better team, and now you're getting a plus price. So, you're getting value.
And you look at the series price to win the series. Edmonton, you could still get a big plus 280. Right. So despite the fact that they're a favorite in this game and they have all the momentum, and if they win this game, I mean, now we're talking about a 3-game streak having to go back to Florida. Right. But now you start to talk about Florida really being up against it and Edmonton rolling. So, I mean, this is very, very – the one thing that I find super interesting about this series is McDavid has dominated play so much that he's minus $1.50 to win the Conn Smythe.
Right.
He could potentially be on the losing team
right.
and win the Conn Smythe trophy, which I fully expect him to win whether they win or lose the series. I think McDavid is your Conn Smythe trophy winner, which it'll be
very
only
uncharacteristic.
Like the 6th time in the history of the NHL that a losing player wins the Conn Smythe trophy winner. But I think we're in for a great Game 6. Yeah. I think that it's going to get even more chippy on the ice, but to me, as much as we talk about Tkachuk and Draisaitl and McDavid, this series is going to come down to 2 guys, and that's Skinner and Bobrovsky, and whichever one can find that form, stay in net, and find the way to play that they did in games 1 through 3 for Bobrovsky, or games 1 through kind of 2 for. Actually, he was fantastic in game 3, 1 through 3. But he's been let down by his defense. Lot of open ice, a lot of breakaways for the Oilers, a lot of odd man rushes. The defense has got to do a better job for him, but he's got to get back in form.
Yeah, I think again, if Edmonton scores first, if they get a couple of goals, it's going to be awfully tough for Florida because they want to play a different style. I think it's going to be fun and anxious to see kind of who we need.
I'm excited for Friday night. Yep. Tune in Friday night for sure.
All right, we've talked a little bit about the hardwood, talked a little bit about the ice. Let's flip over to the boys of summer now. A little MLB talk right now. Still, it's been a struggle. I mean, you look at the lack of parity in baseball, and teams right now like the White Sox and the Rockies and the Angels and the A's and the Mariners that really are struggling, and the teams on the top that are playing so well. On a nightly basis, we are really rooting for these dogs big time.
Well, specifically, the White Sox, the Marlins,
right.
And the Rockies are the teams that we'll call it the general public is picking against. The Rockies were actually very favorable for us this week against the Dodgers, being able to pull some upsets there. But it's the White Sox.
Although they could have won another game.
The White Sox, the first time we saw Jason Hayward grand slam and a Teoscar Hernandez three-run homer to score 7 runs in the 9th inning to complete a comeback. And that same night we watched the Marlins lose in the 12th inning to the Cardinals. But again, Rockies and Marlins both come back this week. And have good weeks to knock off the Cardinals. So we were able to see some good book time, the book doing well in baseball. But that hasn't been the case. The Yankees, the Orioles.
And speaking of the Yankees, they just got richer because Garrett Cole was back. He only pitched 4 innings yesterday, but he looked like he was back to form again.
Yeah, the Yankees are the juggernaut. They're sitting 51-25 as we sit here today. Philadelphia just behind them at 49-25. Able to see the Padres upset them, another thing that made it good for them. But Philly's been absolutely rolling. Baltimore 48-25, and the Dodgers 46-30. And one of the reasons why I bring up the Dodgers is a lot of questions marks. What's going on in the West right now? Obviously, the Dodgers with the Mookie Betts injury and how long he's going to be out, but also just a question of the overall pitching staff.
Pitching for the Dodgers.
Yeah, we've seen Yamamoto now go on the DL. Walker Buehler going on the IL. Not the DL. He's going on the IL just for ineffectiveness and not being able to get guys out as he kind of got lit up in Colorado in a game there. But some real question marks going on in LA on the pitching side of things. We'll see if as we get closer and closer to trade deadline,
that's the key.
They become a team that starts to talk about things. You mentioned the Mariners, the teams that struggles. The Mariners struggle with a ton of strikeouts. I think they lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts, but they're actually 10 games up in the division. The Astros,
Mariners, the Guardians,
the Astros, the Angels, and Oakland have been just really atrocious. The Mariners have been running away with things. So we're seeing a lot of money on the Mariners because there's a chance that they're going to make the playoffs and obviously a chance to go steal things in the American League, especially with the pitching staff.
Look at the Central, too. I mean, as well as the Tigers, the Twins, and the Royals are really playing good baseball right now. But as you said, the trade deadline is going to be so important in baseball. We see that large gap right now of the good teams and the bad teams, and it happened way earlier. It seems like every year it's happening earlier and earlier every year. You see this huge gap with no salary cap in baseball. Even with the new playoff format and the wild card, I thought we'd see more teams kind of engage in this, but that hasn't been the case. And now you're talking about White Sox being huge sellers. With Toronto, who's kind of one of the surprises that they're playing so poorly this year with Bichette and Guerrero, what do they do? We know Baltimore's had a lot of pitching, get hurt this year. What do they go out and do? The Cubs have been rumored. Are you going to be sellers or buyers? It's going to be really interesting at the trade deadline to see who kind of steps up and makes some of these moves.
Yeah, we'll see what happens over these next 2 or 3 weeks for a lot of those teams that are on the bubble, whether they're going to be buyers and sellers. And the other thing, we're really pushing all the props throughout the app on baseball season. Continue to push home run props, pitcher props, strikeout props, first 5 innings. There's actually a loaded menu of baseball props. And obviously go check out the same game parlay, something that as we go through baseball season, be able to take your Aaron Judge to homer, to the Yankees to win, to Soto to homer. A lot of money to be made there with some great odds on those type of things within the same game parlay section of the app.
Yes, there's a lot of really cool things, as you mentioned, on the app. Let's switch over to golf now, the U.S. Open. And everyone was like, DeChambeau won it. No, Rory lost it. I mean, it just really, we were clearly Rory fans from our side of the counter. DeChambeau, I think he opened up 18-1, and he's been betting a lot of these majors right now. Was not a good outcome for us. It was phenomenal to watch that back nine, but unfortunately, Rory let it get away on a few holes there where the bogey monster jumped up and got him.
Yeah, the putting, let him go, and we'll see. I know he's going to take a break.
He hadn't missed a punt within that, was it 5 feet? And he missed 2.
I think within 3 feet.
I mean, it was rough. It was rough.
But congratulations to DeChambeau.
Yeah, of course.
He's really become a fan favorite, and you can see it when he's on the course.
A betting favorite, too.
The enthusiasm he has to play, his interactions with the people on the course, and it's really great to see, and it's great to see what he's done for the game and continuing to push things forward. And it elevates our golf handle. We continue to push more and more stuff up there. And again, a live player that's winning things instead of the PGA. And so again, it just creates even more kind of buzz about what's going on in golf. And so continue to look for us to continue to push those props, matchups, and lots of props as we get to the Open Championship, our next major coming up here shortly.
So I know we talked about the hardwood for the guys, but let's talk about the hardwood for the girls, the WNBA. Caitlin Clark has really drawn a lot of interest, but it's not just Caitlin Clark. It's been Cardoza, it's been Reese. Unfortunately, the injury to Cameron Brink right now, but all those girls have played so phenomenal. They've drawn so much more attention. We used to be the Aces games that we put all these props up. Now we're putting an onslaught of props up for the WNBA, but Handel's been great, and it's already on the board now, but Aces and Sun are 13-1. Aces get Chelsea Gray back. They come off a win against Seattle, but check everything out on the app too, because the WNBA is exciting. It's fun to watch, and Aces haven't been great. They're getting a little healthier right now. It should be interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, putting up individual players props on a lot of the games, and obviously the Caitlin Clark props every single day with the Indiana Fever, who had a struggling start to the season, but they're catching fever, and they've been hot.
Getting a little hotter, yeah.
A little
3 in a row they've won.
A little nice run, and so continue to follow their games. They've been getting incredible viewing. You see all the WNBA viewing and the records that are being set individually in these Fever games.
Yeah, it's fun, and for us guys, it's never too early to talk about the pigskin. I mean, there is so many props on the board right now. Teams had their OTAs. All these rookies are getting signed. We've got a slew of props up on, regular season wins, divisions, the conferences, to win the Super Bowl, rookie props, a bunch of different running back, wide receiver, and quarterback props. So check out the app, and we've only scratched the surface. There's going to be so much more stuff on the board. We're not that far away from last man standing. So, for us, football season is here. We're not that far away. So check out the app for all the cool stuff.
I want to go to the other football season, which is the UEFA 2024. I don't know if you can see it on the screens behind us.
Football.
Soccer. From June 14th to July 14th, we've got the UEFA 2024. That's all the European countries playing in their tournament. It's absolutely fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to watch yet, turn on to Fox, FS1. These games are televised early in the morning, kind of a 6 a.m., 9 a.m., noon kind of setup for these games. They've been absolutely fantastic. A lot of upsets as we've gone through the kind of first round of the group stage. France and England are kind of sitting as co-favorites to win this thing. Mbappe, who's the star player for France, a little bit banged up. Questions marks whether he's going to play in tomorrow's game. And as you sit behind us, England is playing right now as the other team with Saka and Kane kind of as their best players, but a lot of excitement throughout these games. Great thing to also, from a daytime standpoint, if you don't have a lot of things going on or there's no daytime baseball going on, turn it away for soccer. Again, a ton of props, live in-play wagering on anything, guys to score goals, both teams to score goals, and it's a lot of fun to watch as these European fans are going absolutely bananas and singing their songs throughout the games. Real passion and pride for their countries as you watch these games.
I really thought you were going to say ape, you know what? So I'm glad you said bananas. But one more thing too. I know we talked about the hardwood and the season ended, but we're not that far away from NBA Summer League with the games all being here. So I think it starts next week. So check out the app too. We know it's going to be really hot outside, and we love it when you guys come in and enjoy everything that we have to offer, not only here at Red Rock, but all of our properties. But it's such a great time to have the app because we look at it and like, oh, it's downtime. NHL ended, NBA or NHL's almost ended, NBA's ended. It's just baseball. But there are a lot of other stuff going on as well.
And I'll tell you, one of the things we're also looking forward to, as you know, we talk about the Euro 2024 soccer. This should get you somewhat enthused for being able to cheer for your country as we're about a month away from the Olympics, and start to look on the app for Olympic wagering throughout the Summer Olympics. We're going to have that up. And I wanted to give a little shout out to a local 18-year-old swimmer I read this morning. Katie Grimes qualified for her third swimming event, and a local Las Vegas swimmer. So somebody for us to be cheering for, Katie Grimes, somebody to look out for as we get to this year's Summer Olympics. Cheering for her to do her things in the pool.
Good luck, Katie. One last thing, guys. If you haven't been over to Sunset, I know we've talked about it a few times. The book totally remodeled. I mean, it is beautiful. Go check it out before football season. It is really going to be a spot, I think, for that side of town. It's going to be a destination for all you guys want to kind of sit, play, and enjoy all the action. So we're glad to be back with you guys. We know it's hot outside, a lot going on inside. He's Jason. I'm Chucky. This is the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports, and we'll see you guys next week.